Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Wilson, the national spokesman for the Freedom Union of Australia. In this upload, we're going to talk about international law, and specifically, we're going to have a talk about freedom of association. When trying to come to grips with where best to register this union, or how best to start this union, the options at hand were to register with GovCorp. Okay, and we all know how dangerous that is and how futile that is. And the other option that we ended up taking was under international law, which was under the freedom of association. Okay. Now, in this upload, I'm joined by a great activist who has dedicated a large piece of his life in studying international law, and we're going to have a conversation about freedom of association. I'd like to welcome Jason Strong, and Jason and I are going to have a talk about that subject. Thank you, Jason. Welcome.
All right. How you going, John? How's things?
Now, Jason, tell me this. Let's talk about freedom of association. Where does it come from, and what rights does that bestow upon ordinary Australians wanting to register a new Australian trade union?
Well, a long time ago, all we had was ecclesiastical law, and freedom of association came from freedom of religion. And a lot of the ecclesiastical orders in the day, in the biblical wars and the religious wars, they worked out that you could elect to have a freedom and a choice of your church or your cult or sect. And so that progressed into business, and you get the term freedom of association, which is less ecclesiastical and more business orientated.
So where is the freedom of an association enshrined? I mean, I see it enshrined in the International Labour Organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in many places. ILO is one of them, of course. That's a modern version of ecclesiastical law morphing into freedom of association. And it's basic human rights, and all these conventions, Hague Conventions, and after the Second War, we had a lot of countries sign these conventions, and basically to maintain peace and order. And of course, your freedoms started to flow from that. And they are basic because a lot of the leaders in Australia and around the world sign these conventions and treaties and these compacts. And I think it was 92, they signed on to the ICC. And that was fundamentally to give a lot of protections and freedoms for individuals and peoples.
So we have an absolute lawful right here in Australia to be able to set up and establish our own Australian trade union, the Freedom Union of Australia, that's enshrined in international law, and with it brings protections.
Yeah, that's right. Basically, protections come from contract law. So treaties are more of an international game. And so if you localized a treaty, it would just simply be contract law. So the basic premise for freedom of association is two or more forming a compact agreement are equal in rights. So this is where individuals come together and they form the sovereign, or they form the union or the association or the society. Now, a lot of these were done in secret, and that's where you get the term secret society. But now they're becoming commonplace, and the knowledge is not so secret. So through using the art of contract, when you form your association, it comes from customary law, where two Indian tribes might come together and they'll have a blood oath. And a lot of gangs and patches, they'll have initiation, blood in, blood out. You know, you can't leave, that kind of game. So a lot of this is based off the customary law, international tribes, international communities, and coming together. And these customs were used for international law. Excuse me, John.
Yeah.
So as the uniform customary code is implemented through international law, a lot of these compact, these blood oaths, these initiation rites, these secret societies, they're basically, the big secret in town is they're using international law to foment their rights. So they're using basic human rights to establish themselves in an association or society or a union. And this is where we get the protections of union. It's based off international law and the contract. So when you contract one into another, you form a union, you form a society, and this is predicated all on international law, and this is where you get your fundamental rights.
There's some real power in these unions, isn't there, Jason?
Yeah. For a long time. Well, you have the Union Jack, and before governments, there were just international trade unions, and so you'd be setting sail around the world, and you're going port to port, and the bankers were setting up little trade routes, and Norfolk Island was a trading port in 1776, a long time ago. So these ports were set up for the Union of Trade. And of course, Norfolk Island hadn't set up a government. Australia wasn't a twinkle in anyone's eye back then. But basically, this is why unions are powerful, because before governments, there were only unions.
So, ladies and gentlemen out there, I hope that in this brief discussion that some of this information is washing off on you and you're wrapping your mind around it. There is rock solid international law in play, which guarantees our right to form a union and the right to organise, and we are exercising those rights pursuant to international law, and there's a whole lot more in the international law jurisdiction that we are going to bring to your attention that I think you're going to find very, very interesting. That's all for this one. Thank you to my great guest, Jason Strong. He's one of the crew of people who have dedicated a slice of his life to studying international law and is able to engage in some very, very high-level discussions. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
No problem. You're welcome, John.
It's out.